It's another week and another brand new episode here on the Granny Panty Podcast. I'm your host, RubyLynne. If you'd like to follow all things Ruby, it's easy. Just go to RubyLynne, RubyLynne.com, where you can find all of my links. If you'd like to follow the podcast, that's an easy one too. You can go to thegrannypantypodcast.com, where I have my episodes linked and everywhere that you want to hear the podcast. This week's guest has been in this business, 25 years. He started by it naturally. His father was a photographer. He became a photographer. He does a good balance of mainstream and, I would say, alternative photography. He is an event photographer mostly. He does do individual stuff. But if you go to any kind of fetish, XXX event, you are going to see him. So help me welcome Buster Brown with Come Shoot Me. So excited to have you on the show this week, Buster. I'm glad that you made time. I know we were going to try to do this in person, but just didn't work out. So how is your summer going?
So far, so good. Hopefully I'm going to be able to go somewhere this year because, COVID really restricted us from going out and traveling. And I mean, even though I've gone to a lot of the shows, summer is always good. I always look forward to it.
Yes. So I wanted to have you on the show because I had the pleasure of meeting you early on a couple years ago at an event that you were taking pictures at. And then as I go to each event, I still get to see you. I run into you. So I was curious. I wanted to have you on so we could talk about how you became an adult content photographer and you do events. So let's start with Baby Buster. How long have you been in the photography business?
All right. So I grew up in my dad's business. My dad did photography. My dad photographed back in the day a lot of celebrities. I wouldn't consider my dad a paparazzi, and I'm not either because I always learned from my dad to be positive, not chasing somebody down the street to get that shot no matter what. You know what I mean? There are I still am very good with the guidelines and the respect. And I see that even today, there's still a lot of shows that I get welcome to. And, as a photographer, because it doesn't matter the adult or the mainstream, there's a fine line. So like I said, you give respect, you get respect. That really does work.
Absolutely.
And back to what you were saying, a lot of models tell me, they say, Buster, we see you more than our own family because, there's a show back to back. I'm there and they're like, yay, he's here. And that's the thing. I try to have good vibes, be comfortable with everybody. But back to what you asked me with the adult. So I grew up in my dad's business, again, film. And for all you millennials out there, we actually had to put film in the camera. We didn't know what we got till we developed it. And, it was a whole process and you had to wait weeks. And now everybody's like a microwave, oh, when are the pictures going to be up? And I try still to get them up fast. But, we have that time thing. So I grew up as a light man working for my dad pretty much. It was a good gig doing weddings. It was the 80s. So to make a long story short, I cover a lot of stuff from Fashion Week to movie premieres. To anything, tattoo shows. I shoot for a lot of charities. I'm sure other stuff will pop in. So I've always been in the rock and roll and the entertainment. And again, with that, there's always models and then there's different levels of what a model will do. So even back then, even though I wasn't per se in the adult, girls still came to me for headshots and they were comfortable with me. So from there, they were like, hey, do you mind if we take a little more boudoir, risque, classic nude? And that's pretty much, what I was doing anyway. So to make a long story short, and this is funny, one of my military clients wanted to take me to Internext. And this is 23 years ago when Internext was, they were pretty much on the same level with the electronic show, because
Okay.
actually the adult industry for a while was actually ahead of the electronics. They would always have the newer, they'd be one or two steps ahead online with what was going on. Now, I think we fell a little bit, but, hopefully we'll catch up. But this guy took me to Internext. I had no clue. He told me, he goes, oh, this is the adult industry. It's the back end. It's all the web traffic people, all that good stuff. And basically, you'll love this. He took the technology that they had to talk to the pilot that would actually be on a mission to blow up whatever. And unless he got the call in the cockpit to abort that mission, if there was no call, he'd complete the mission.
Wow.
That technology they used to call the pilot is now what started actually with the cam industry. Because in the camming back 23 years ago, let's say like I'm seeing you, I would have to type with both hands and ask you, what's your name? What would you like to do? And blah, blah, blah. You type back to me. Now we had the technology to talk to each other. So I have a hand free, if you know what I mean. And, and basically I didn't have to type to you. We also didn't have each other's info. Like if you hung up on me, I would not be able to call you back.
Right.
And this kind of got me in to the first show. And at that show, I met a guy, and everybody can look him up, but I look at him as like he gave me my break. Bill Margold. He was actually at the time president of Free Speech. And Free
Oh.
Speech, of course, we still use it today. All the models, everybody contributes to it, because if God forbid there's a problem, they're the ones fighting for the adult
Right.
industry to represent them. So Bill Margold at the time was a very, what do you call it, free spoken guy.
Mhm.
He would tell you straight up whether you liked it or not, what he thought, and he was very opinionated, but we got along very well. And he basically, and excuse my French, said, fuck these geeks.
Yeah.
Let me get you to the real show. That's how he looked at Internet. And he took me to AVN when you couldn't really pay for a pass, register. And I actually, for the first 2 years, came to AVN as working with Free Speech. And
Wow.
all the booths at the time had long lines for, at the time, Jenna Jameson, Tara Patrick. So I came in around the same time, and I didn't cut the lines, but on industry day, because they don't have that anymore, you would have like half a day for the people that were in the industry to actually go up to any company, any model, and you wouldn't have to wait on the long line. So if you needed a quick picture or something, it pretty much eliminated the lines. Again, I still don't cut lines and whatever. I wait patiently, but it just made things a little easier. But that's how I went to the shows.
Wow. Wow. So we're talking like 2000, year 2000 then or
Yeah,
something.
pretty much 2000. And also, again, some of the other photographers that are still in the industry with me are also around, give or take a few years before, give or take a few years after. So that's why, like, it's funny that I've been in the industry 23 years, and some people like look at me like, oh, like, are you new? And I'm like, really?
Yeah, right, right. Well, and when I first met you, I just automatically knew that you'd been in the industry for a long time, and I could tell just because of everyone talking to you and excited to see you. Speaking of AVN, it's really evolved since you started going. I've had several guests that I talked to soon after this year's AVN that weren't very happy about it. Talk to me about how you've seen it evolve and
All
what
right.
you're
Well, I've
thinking. What's
seen it.
your
I've
view?
seen it change. I mean, I'm not here to trash talk any companies or anything,
Right,
but
right.
AVN. When I went to AVN, that was like, I don't know if you're familiar with the Shot Show in the Venetian.
I'm not. I'm
Okay, so
not.
the Shot Show is a military show, and I go to that show usually because that used to be around the same time as AVN after they switched it from CES, and it's a giant hotel, and that show takes up every space, three levels of. Well, here's the thing: when I went to AVN, first of all, I don't know how people did it. The convention went through Sunday, including the AVN Awards Saturday night. So only like I want to say 10, 11 years ago did they change that, because nobody was on the floor Sunday because everybody was was partying the night
Tired.
before, all night. So I would be like a ghost town, and I'd be like, wow, I'm a little late because they'd open the floor at 10 in the morning. So a
Mm-hmm.
lot of these shows also adapted to, you know, to keeping up with the
Right.
sleeping and all that. But AVN, when I first went in, like I said, it was 3 levels of everything to do with the
Wow.
show. So from all the toy companies, it was all
Mm-hmm.
together, 3 levels. Now, again, it's we're living in a harder world because now
Hmm.
everything is more accessible.
Right.
So back
Right.
then, again, a lot of girls at AVN were not allowed to sell stuff either. Like when you went to AVN, so like that's why, for instance, at Exotica, the models have a little more freedom, so guys can actually tip them more or pay for a signature. But AVN, you'd wait online, and if you were looking for a DVD, some of the companies just put them out, but there was no sales. I don't know why, if there was some legal thing, but AVN's definitely changed because now also you see that they pretty much trying to keep up with also the cam girls and the all the content creators. Back then, I was with, like I said, porn stars that till this day are like in the Hall of Fame and
Right.
legend. And
Right.
again, I come from all these different worlds, but that's what I'm getting at. You have to adapt, or like they say, get out. So
Right, right. Yeah, I've had a couple people say that, the original AVN was so that you could have access to meet the studio stars because studio porn was really all there was back then, whereas now, majority of it's self-produced. So you're
well, yeah,
right.
I
You
wouldn't
do
say
have
amateur. There's
access.
different. There's different levels. There's different niches, and that's what comes up in all the categories at these award shows.
Mhm.
So it's definitely changed. I mean, again, if you ask like an old school porn star, and then you bring up some girl, let's say that's got a lot of followers, she'll be like, I don't understand, and it's like it's different. Again, different stuff. And then even today, I feel a lot of the porn stars feel that they also have to cam because there's two audiences really.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. So, what is the craziest show? It's a two-part question. The
Okay.
craziest event you've ever been to, and then also what's the craziest thing that's ever happened at an event? So, kind of two-part question.
Right. I mean, it's funny with me because, like, some people look at me when something outrageous is happening, at a show, and I'm like, for me, this is like a regular Tuesday night. So it's really hard as a photographer because, I mean, obviously, I don't want to tell you like, yeah, I was at an event and all of a sudden these two people went at it and chairs are flying. I mean, I've been at every type of crazy. Thank God, no shootings, but. Again, they try to keep it tame. Like, for instance, I remember when we were in Amsterdam, and again, this goes back to AVN. Some guy brought in a few models, and even some of the guys who were in the industry were not expecting these 2, 3 models to just start making out. And
Oh.
pretty much, we could have, I'm sure guys were filming it, but that's what I'm getting. It was almost like a content shoot in the middle of everybody's vendor booths and stuff, almost like Venus. And that's a show that's still on my bucket list there because I heard at Venus back in the day, anything goes. I think they still basically can do crazy stuff, but there
Mhm.
are full levels. Like it's not going to be an orgy or anything
Right,
crazy. But
right.
Venus, that was always what everybody heard on the DL. That if you go there, because Europeans are more into the nudity and
Mhm.
being naked. So that's
Yeah.
one thing. But like basically like a fan will get to do something that is like almost like fuck a fan,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. But that's
Yeah.
like I said, that's usually a content shoot somewhere else, or somebody could win a contest. But I heard in Europe, anything goes. So back to this show, these guys were not expecting the girls to go at it like they did. They were like, and I go, hey, this is for me. I've seen everything. Nothing phases me. Another another good, crazy show is, I mean, and I don't think, unfortunately, I can go this year. Fetish Con.
Oh.
It's always a fun show because a lot
Mhm.
of people right away when I mention Fetish Con, they're like, well, I'm not really into that role playing or whatever. And
Right.
again, I shoot fetish parties in New York, and all over the place. And at the end, it's a respectful thing because you
Mhm.
have to know their lifestyle. Obviously, you can't just walk up to some girl with a collar. Obviously, she's owned by someone. She's part of a
Right.
family, and disrespect. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
that show actually is just very, to me, colorful because a lot of
Mhm.
people almost, it's like, okay, we're till the next event. They come down 2 hours later, they're wearing another outfit, another
Right.
nicer latex outfit. They had red carpets. So for me, that's very colorful. I think I get the best pictures at that show. Again, not
Cool.
that the other shows are any different. I try to, like I said, I try to go to each show with
Yeah.
the right frame so I get the best pictures of everyone.
I know. I think FetishCon's gonna be on my bucket list for next year. I've had a whole bunch of people tell me I need to go to FetishCon.
Right. No, you
So
definitely should hit it. You know,
so
one
I
year.
might have to do that.
Just like
Well,
again, it's not in the adult Dragon Con. So I don't know if
oh,
you heard of that. So Dragon Con is a Comic Con in Atlanta, and basically there's 5 hotels, and they get sold out, and everybody comes down just like for Fetish Con. They
mhm.
come down wearing let's say I'm Batman, so I'm going to be Batman with a suit tomorrow. Then I'm going to be Batman like
Oh,
Armageddon Batman. So they do the same character for the whole weekend, but
right.
then because it's like a 5 day show, everybody rocks that same character different ways. Some people change characters daily. They'll be like, oh, tomorrow I'm going to be someone else, and they walk the streets. I mean, New York Comic Con, I shoot that in New York, and people
That would
actually
be
go to
fun.
restaurants dressed up as
Mhm.
their character. So that's also a bucket list show for me.
That is cool. How many events a month do you shoot?
It depends,
There could be an event every month, though. Are you
right?
traveling every
Well,
month?
basically, what I post on my site obviously is all the upcoming shows, whether they're it's let's say the web end, whether it's a model show, there's also, I don't know if you know, I'm sure you do. Some of the companies or platforms actually have boot camps. So like I've never gone,
Yeah.
like Flirt for Free
Right.
does, I don't know if it's a whole week or 4 days
Right.
for their
Right.
models to basically, it's like I said, like an inspirational thing. So I've never done one of those. I was invited to a different platform, but
Mhm.
I don't, sometimes you can't go to every show. I'd love to. But
Yeah.
also, the other thing is a lot of people, and this is what they don't realize, us photographers are in the same boat as you models. So obviously, if I'm working a show, I don't want to go up to every girl. I've had a lot of girls ask me at shows, Buster, how do I get your pictures? Blah, blah. You did a really good job. Can I tip you? Can I buy them? And I tell them, listen, I don't want anybody to pay for the pictures. I try to get one company to sponsor me for all the pictures for any particular show that works for them. This way, I put them all up, and this way, everybody can copy, download, share, tag, retweet, and that's what keeps me, moving.
That is awesome. Well, I have to share with you. I think I told you this before. I was recently in a Twitter group of a bunch of models, male and female, actually. And it was quite a big Twitter chat group. And I have to say that there were two photographers that were mentioned about they are the most respectful and that they take pictures of everybody. They don't just pick, the more perfect bodies and that kind of thing. And your name came up. And so you should know that people are talking and saying good things about you.
Thank you, because I will be honest. I mean, not that I'm looking for this, but some of the shows lately have really put in like not a zero tolerance, but again, we live in a world where like the first thing, let's say I come up to you, and it's happened before. I'll go, hey Ruby, can I get a picture? And then let's say you tell me I just came here or I'm running somewhere. Can you get me later? I respect that and I move on. I've had
Yes,
some
you
girls
do.
like, who are you? Blah blah. Where's this gonna get? And honestly, I like when girls ask me if they don't know me
Right.
where you're shooting from, because there are a lot of guys with camera. They just come to
Right.
let's say like Exotica or AVN has a rule now that if you are not media, you actually can't go into the show with a big SLR camera. So I
Wow.
didn't know if you knew that. So I like that they actually restrict that, because some of the guests think, oh, you know what? I'll pay whatever it is, 200 to go in for the whole day. for the whole weekend. And
Right.
I'm going to bring my giant camera, and now I'm going to show all my friends, like, yeah,
Hmm.
I shoot the industry. And
Yep.
again, some of these people are harmless, but that's all it takes.
Right.
It
Right.
takes one bad photographer that ruins it. Let's say for me, because the girl had a bad experience.
I was just going to say it dilutes the authenticity of the true photographers, you know? So, yeah. Awesome. 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 So, what are your next events that you have coming up? Do you have anything booked that you're
Yeah,
shooting at?
so I'm actually going to be back at Exotica in Florida.
Oh,
So
nice.
I mean, I wasn't planning on it, but again, I couldn't do Fetish Con because I actually have personal parties that I'm not going to. That's the one thing. If somebody hires me, and it would really be a rarity. If I tell you I'm coming to your event, I'm there.
Yeah.
So I don't like to play these games where like, oh, I don't do that even with my wedding clients. Like if they
Yeah.
hired me to come with my crew, I don't try to sell them a different, book the job and then worry about who's shooting it and then rolling the dice that it's, God forbid, not somebody up to our level.
Right.
So I
Right.
also look at my business that even though my father passed away, not the adult industry, but the mainstream business, I
Mhm.
always say that I keep the family name good. So, I don't need somebody to go, oh, that guy, get him out of here, you know? So
That's
we
so
really,
funny.
but I should be at Exotica Miami in like 2 weeks. I don't know. Are you going to be
And
there
you'll be
too?
at New Jersey for sure, right?
Yeah. Jersey, listen, that's my backyard.
I was
So
going to say that's home base.
exactly. And even Jersey, some of the years also, there was conflicting other, like I shoot horror shows. So one of the weekends, I basically went back and forth. Exotica, New Jersey, I used to shoot for some charity in Manhattan. I would leave, go shoot down in the morning, come back in the afternoon. So, I try to make every show work.
Yes, you do. Well, tell me about your equipment. I'm
Oh,
talking about your camera equipment.
I got that.
What kind of camera do you use for all the nerdy tech people like myself? What are
All
you
right.
using?
Well, I always, and again, this is a photography choice. When I grew up, it was basically Canon or Nikon, and you really didn't want to get both because if you open up your bag and God forbid you forget like a body or something doesn't work, everything with Canon and Nikon are compatible. So you want to have one system. So I have at least like 8 Canon bodies, and then I have a whole bunch of different lenses, all high end stuff, and that's pretty much all you need. I mean, today I'm competing with everybody with like, oh, I got the new, iPhone this or the new, and that's like, I've had red carpets where people ask me, could you move a little bit? And I'm like, oh, so you can get it with your phone. I'm like on a red carpet, and again, I'm not knocking someone that's on the red carpet. But if you're on the red carpet and you're shooting with a phone, something's wrong, you know?
Yeah, yeah, if you're a media actual
Right. And
photographer,
that's the
right?
problem. Like, I still feel that you should have an SLR camera.
Mhm.
And now, of course, the last, I want to say, 8, 9 years, Sony has really stepped up. So some people that haven't bought cameras, I'm the one guy. Like, even though I'll use Canon, I'm not here to knock Nikon.
Yeah.
And then if somebody is like, oh, what camera should I get? And I tell them, are you doing more video, more photography?
Right.
Because Sony, I actually played with the camera a little bit, and I know for video, I felt it was better to shoot, with that
Yeah.
camera.
Do you do much video shooting, or are
I
you
do. I
mostly
mean, that's
still?
that's the thing with the newer cameras now. So let's say something's happening, like you mentioned, like not what I mentioned before with the girls getting at it, but let's say there's some, when I go to, let's say, an award show, and then they have a brief, let's say, band act or
Right.
a bunch of girls
Comedy.
doing some crazy stuff. I always try to get a little B-roll video. I mean,
Okay.
if somebody needs me for video, I actually have separate guys, or I would definitely bring myself with another assistant. So this way, one of us can consistently shoot video and one of us do photography. So this way you
Gotcha.
get it. But I just feel that nobody in our, again, on my end, like, yeah, the B roll video is cutesy stuff that I get, like little fun clips and
Uh-huh.
things. But if I was shooting video, I don't know. Again, I'm not here to knock it, but I just feel that nobody's really stepped up to go, we want to sponsor you. We need you just for video. So
Oh.
I'm sure it could happen because,
I was going to say, you just put
I,
that out to the universe. It might happen now.
right. No, well, if anybody needs me to shoot behind the scenes or do video, I can do that too. And I have people that can come out. I mean, I have a whole bunch of different things that I offer, like when I cover a show. I could be branded. I could wear the company's name. That helps. And then I always have side shoots going on. So there's always ways to work. There's models that have
You're
asked
busy.
me, like, if somebody needs them to come to one of these shows, like obviously, they're not going to pay their flights and stuff. But let's say they're doing a local show in Florida or a different state, and they're like, "Hey, I'll work the whole weekend," and then they could be branded with the shirts of the company. So I've had that happen a bunch of times.
Gotcha. Have you ever shot a triple X scene as a
Yeah, no,
videographer?
I basically, when I started, I actually, it was funny, like you just said, I'm walking around, I'm shooting AVN in the early days. I passed some guy, hit it off with him, and he goes, "Hey, can you shoot video?" And I go, "Of course." And then he's telling me, "Hey, I need another guy tonight." And I go, "It's a shame. I have my video equipment in New York." And he goes, "No," he goes, "You'll use my equipment." So
Oh.
I shot 4 scenes for him, and I was camera too. I got paid decent, which was good, and left Vegas with a little more gambling money.
A nice little side hustle on the fly there.
Right,
I like it.
but that's what I'm saying to you. That's the thing that sucks when somebody goes to you, "Oh, if you would have had your equipment, I could do this," and it's like, "Wait, I do," Or the guy in this case, he's like, "I got camera equipment," and he goes, "Use mine."
That's
So
perfect. Oh, how fun. How fun. Okay, so I got to ask, how'd you get, because I know Buster isn't your government name. So how did
right.
you get the name Buster?
All right, so Buster, like I told you, when I first started shooting, in the beginning, I right away hooked up after that show. I hooked up with Penthouse, and actually Penthouse put my government name on some of my shoots. And then I was just like, you know what? If I'm gonna keep going in this industry, and again, I just want to say not that I didn't expect to be in this industry for this long, but I'm happy to be here.
Yeah.
There's a lot of industries that I'm still in. So I still, like I said, touch Fashion Week and Comic
Mhm.
Cons, and I shoot different award shows in New York. So I basically was like, I got to separate these names now. So, like everybody else, I was thinking of all the classic jokes that we all grew up with, like Mike Hunt. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure you know that joke,
Yep.
Michael Hunt. So I
Yep.
was like, that name is a little bit too sketchy. Then I was going to do Bend Over, but I looked it up, and right away I saw there was a guy 10 years before me that locked in that name. And again,
Dang it.
I don't know if you knew, like, that's the other issue. When I would go to AVN, I
Hmm.
would meet girls with similar names. And
Oh,
I was like, when are you going to trademark your name? And they're like, oh, we'll do it. And that's the problem. Now, some of the girls in the last couple of years
hmm,
find another girl with their name, or they registered it, they bought the .coms. So
right.
you had to do this years ago. So then, like everybody else being silly, I was like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna be Tommy Salami, you know. But I'm glad I didn't do that because you know what I'm saying. It wouldn't fly. But
That sounds
Buster,
so New York too.
exactly. Like, hey, how you doing? So Buster Brown was actually similar to my real name, and guys nicknamed me anyway. They were like Buster, Buster. So I was like, you know what? Buster Brown works. I grew up with the shoes. A lot of people that are around my age always see me. They're like, no way, is that your name? Like they know the company,
Right.
and it just fits. And
It
I don't
does
know.
fit you perfectly.
you know, I
That's
like
awesome.
Buster.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so you've got Miami Exotica coming up, and that's in June. Anything between June and November, like event wise?
Well, like I said, Exotica. I know XBiz does like sex.com. I don't know if you're familiar with that show.
Oh, I'm not. Mm-mm.
So I don't know if they're doing it in New York again because I'm not here to give people false stuff. I try to put up the
Right,
shows.
right, right.
But for the last, I want to say before COVID, the last 7, 8 years, they partnered with somebody that does like a health and sex show. And actually, Chatabate is part of it too. And that's in New York City. So I don't want to say that it's in New York in September. And then they actually, I don't know if they announced it, but somebody told me they may bring it back to LA. But if it's in New York, I definitely like to cover that. It's 2 days. It's really just free advice. It's a lot of vanilla people. It's, like Exotica, that they just give out information. I know the 420 show, that has nothing to do with us, but a lot of the girls like to partake.
Right,
So
right, right.
that's actually going to also come up before Exotica. Then it all depends. I mean, I'm supposed to go to Europe, so X-Days.
Nice.
Well, that's the thing. Back in the day, I used to go to all the affiliate shows. So the behind the scenes, the webmasters, the traffic providers,
Nice.
content people. So all the back end of our business. So in September, there's 2 shows. There's XBiz in Amsterdam. I'm
Amsterdam.
working still on finalizing that. And then I should be in Prague. I think I haven't missed a show in Prague since he started the show 14 years ago.
That's so amazing. How exciting that you
Oh,
get to
yeah.
see the world and
Have camera, will travel.
yeah, that is so perfect. So perfect. Well, tell everybody where they can find your photos as we close out the show.
Sure. So it's comeshootme.com.
Okay.
And then I'm also working on buster.xxx.
Oh, I like it.
Buster.xxx.
And
Hopefully
if
that'll
someone
come in the
wants
new year.
and if somebody wants to book you for an event or a show, they can go to comeshootme.com.
Right, with an O.
Okay.
I own it
Yeah,
with a
yeah.
U. I own it with a U, but like I said, I always wanted to make the media with an O.
Right.
COMESHOOTME.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much for making the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me. I know, like I said, we were going to do it in person, but that wasn't going to work out. So we'll just do it via video.
Good talking to you, Ruby. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, I hope to see you in New Jersey in November. That would be the next thing.
For sure.
But all right, I will talk to you soon, Buster.
Thank you.